My technology, my justice, is what helped me build the Magistrate, which means I know how to break it down. Here's your look at the new McFarlane Toys, DC Multiverse, DC Future State, Batman Dark Detective. A tyrannical group known as the Magistrate has taken over police in Gotham City and are cracking down on anyone wearing a mask, heroes and villains alike. After discovering Batman's secret identity, Bruce Wayne disappears fast and almost loses his life in the process. He maintains the illusion that Bruce Wayne's dead and operates out of a basement as new Batcave as he tries to save Gotham City from its new oppressors. It must be hard to stop the underworld when you're doing it underground. Before we get a closer look at the DC Future State Batman Dark Detective, let's grab first the tape measure so you guys can see how tall the figure stands. First of all, in inches, Dark Detective Batman stands 6.5 inches in height, and that works out to be a figure that's 17 centimeters tall. And then to compare the figure with another Batman we've just recently looked at here on this channel, moving over, Dark Detective Batman, and bring in what I would have said was the bar now set by the DC Multiverse line. I would have said that if not for the fact that Batman's arms here, now this is by the way the Hush Batman 2-pack Batman. Disappointing though, as you probably already saw in that review, that Batman's forearms and elbow joints are all black plastic. If not for that, I would have said that this is the bar that gets now set with the DC Multiverse. But yeah, and Batman has some difficult time then standing. Another issue I have with this particular figure. In this case, as you can see, comparing Dark Detective Batman against Bummer Hush Batman, you can see that Dark Detective Batman is a little bit shorter than this Batman. And of course, he has a lot more layers of clothing as well. The accessories for DD Batman, that's Dark Detective Batman, FYI, he comes included with a black DC logo stand, the same stand that we've seen before and will continue to see as we continue to open up and review these multiverse figures. They're not deviating too far away from the standard here. Sometimes you may get flight stands. It would be more perplexing than anything if he actually came included with a flight stand. This is not the type of character that needs a flight stand, but sometimes we do get them. Sometimes characters that need those flight stands get these ones instead. Anyways, it's got the DC logo down below, one singular peg, as you can see, and that attaches to the undersides of Batman's boots. Only one of them. You can't have both. The figure also comes included with a trading card, and for a second, though, I was about to say it's from the source material, until further looking at it and realizing that that seems like a shoulder joint. They've done it to us again, giving us figure photography. At least this has thrown me off enough to, for a second guess myself and think that they actually used an illustrated art panel like a page from the comic. But I think they still have used figure photography. On the back, though, of the card, a substantial read-up. You can pause and read this for yourself. It's not, though, the same read-up I read at the beginning of this video. I actually started right around here, covering the thumb above the top. Like that's all like standard read up for Batman. They haven't changed anything there. And they simply just add on the extra material. I always feel like in a case like this, not that we're going to spend a lot of time talking about beefs that I have with the cards, but I feel like in a case like this, if your character specific in this case, Dark Detective Batman's, his information really only starts around here. I would not add maybe every single time the exact same read up for Batman, because that's a lot to read up. Especially if you're somebody that only breathes once you've read it, you're probably going to pass out before you finish reading that's not even a paragraph. That's like 3 paragraphs long. Anyways, we're going to put that to the side. Dark Detective DD Batman comes included also with a hook. The hook is attached to a cording, although the cording is wrapped around and permanently molded like this. Now, looking on the figure, just spinning the figure around, I thought there may have been a hook on somewhere on his belt that you could have looped this onto. You can kind of BS your way and simply just put it underneath his jacket. Nobody would be any bit the wiser other than the person that already has this Batman in their collection, and they'll tell you, wait a minute, there's no hook on the side of the utility belt. And then you sort of have to look over and say, shh. But that is one place at least you can store it if you didn't want to have to necessarily put it into his hand. What's interesting, though, about this Batman, and this goes back to the talking point of the fact that these figures can't come included with guns, is it seems to me, am I the only one that notices that looks like a trigger-firing finger? And yet, he's not shooting anything other than just this grapple line that sort of just, again, clips around his hand. You really do have to pry the hand away from the palm in order for him to properly hold the line. It is a very hard plastic, yes, but to look at this, I would swear to you that that's intended to hold a gun, and probably something, unfortunately, that McFarlane's team had to leave off with this release. I'm sure we'll be getting guns down the road at some point, and yeah, they are doing the munitions set that has nothing but guns, and more guns. So yeah, you could probably use that with this Batman instead. So he comes with this. We'll just put that to the side. Getting a closer look, though, here at Batman, Dark Detective Batman. Not a bad-looking figure. While looking at this, the vibe that I get really is Nightmare Batman from the Snyder universe, whether you like that or not. This very much reminds me of the Batman v Superman Nightmare Batman. I think a lot of that more so is just the way that he's got the longer trench coat like this and sporting a little bit of stubble on his face. It's a nicely sculpted face, although it doesn't really I don't recognize a lot of Batman here. This is, of course, Batman as more a rebel living underground. And yeah, something's definitely a little bit different about this Batman. From the side, if you really were to exclude the ears, it kind of reads a little more like Captain America for me. And maybe a lot of that has to do with the fact that his ears are sticking out from the sides. If you look at just this part and covering over the ears, almost as if you're whispering a secret you don't want Bruce Wayne to hear. His parents are dead, by the way. No, Bruce Wayne already knew about that. I'm pretty sure he already knew about that. If you cover off the ears, it actually is a pretty good-looking Batman. I mean, I don't mind the fact he does have the ears, but it's so strange because I'm so used not to see Batman actually with ears. Shh, his parents are dead. So it's a nicely sculpted face. No real issues there. This particular outfit of Batman not only does have the trench coat, but it also has some shoulder plates on the tops of it. So I guess, I don't know why you would have to. Why would you put shoulder pads on the tops of your shoulders of your trench coat? That seems somewhat unnecessary. Batman does have it, though. If you just move away his jacket, though, you get something a little bit more closer to what a Batman outfit would be. In this case, it looks like Batman actually painted on the bat emblem. That's pretty symmetrical. I would not be able to do that by hand. I don't know if he's actually just taking a paintbrush, but that's pretty clean just for doing this by hand. It's a bright yellow, so it's a little bit different than what we're used to seeing, because generally there would be a black emblem on the inside of that outlined yellow. It's different, but at least it's something that's passable and acceptable for a Batman. His utility belt, again, if you could call it that, seems to have holsters on the sides. It looks as if he's almost got like a whip and a couple of gas capsules also located in there as well. It's a decently detailed looking utility belt. A lot of the paint, though, really gets left off this figure. There's gold here, there's gold on the capsules, and of course there's the yellow here on his emblem, but a lot of it is probably just the plastic getting the job done. He has knee pads, and funny enough, he does have shin guards, calf guards that have the points of the ears of the bat cowl. So even as he is a vigilante, it's interesting that Bruce Wayne has to still incorporate aspects of Batman. Like, he had to go out of his way. I don't know if he would have just bought these boots online, or at least the calf guards online. And he specifically had to look for one that had bat ears on the tops. Strange. I don't know if I would be doing that if I was living underground and hiding, pretending, of course, I was dead. Like I said, it's a good-looking figure. The jacket itself is one of my favorite things about the figure. I kind of like the way it blows off to the side. I'm not trying to do that, wave my fingers in front of the screen, but I do like the way it kind of goes off to the side. It's not just a straight down jacket. And yes, it is a softer material that they would have done, so not that it would necessarily have limited the articulation here on the figure, but it is at least a softer plastic that they end up using. Gauntlets there again. We have to be so much a Batman. If you're going to be hiding underground, I really think a mask would have been more than enough just to hide your face. I don't think you always have to be exactly a Batman, but of course he does have the spikes sticking out from his gauntlet. This looks like this was likely painted. He's got bandages actually taped up underneath for his forearms, and his hands are actually a different color than his gauntlets. Instead of the black, of course, we're getting kind of treated to a dark purple instead. For the articulation on Dark Detective Batman, we're going to start things with his head. Head does rotate all the way around. It is on a ball joint after all. It does look down. It looks up, and you can also rock it back and forth as well. Now, the arms are the things I have the biggest issue with. You probably already see one thing that happens. They did attach the shoulder pads here instead of here, which is good on paper. The problem with it, though, as you already have seen, is it adds additional stress, because the moment this gets high enough, these shoulder pads hit against this collar, and you're putting then pressure against the joint. It hasn't happened on this arm, but it happens all the time when I try to move this arm out. It ultimately pops the ball joint out, and I always have to plug it back into place. There we go. The arms do rotate all the way around. I guess that's one blessing of actually having the shoulders be part of the shoulder and not here, is at least you can freely rotate the arm all the way around. The figure does have a bicep swivel. Figure does have a double hinge on the elbow, and his hands rotate all the way around. His upper torso is on a ball joint. It seems as well like his lower torso also is the same. His legs split out. There's the ratcheted joint. Why we always gotta have to go with the token under crotch shot of these figures. But anyways, there it is for you guys to enjoy. Legs go forward, legs go back. There is a swivel 3/4 of the way up the thigh. There's the cut right there that allows the joint, the thigh joint that is, to swivel all the way around. Figure has a double hinge on the knee. There is no articulation here. I almost thought for a second that there was a cut right here allowing the lower leg to swivel, but that's not the case. It looks like it's actually part of his lower leg. Boots move back and forth this way. He does have an ankle pivot, and he does also have toe articulation as well. So all the same standard articulation. There is also a DC Future State actual Batman, the one that has the mouth plate. We will be looking at that in an upcoming review. And of course, yes, we will be doing comparisons of the two figures. I like the look of this one. Maybe it's not one I would certainly recommend everybody picking up. The problem sometimes with the DC Multiverse figures is that they are solely specific to a storyline. That if you aren't as keen and you never really read the DC Future State comic run, you may not be as invested to pick this figure up for yourself. If you sort of like, though, the way Ben Affleck looks in his Nightmare Batman scene, there's enough of that kind of going on here with Batman that it kind of gives a bit of a nod to that design of character. For one reason or another, it's a little strange the fact that Batman does have ears sticking out from the cowl. That's literally the one thing I continue to look at from this figure. But overall, I do like the look of Dark Detective Batman, though it's not a figure I would say is a requirement if you're only picking up figures here and there. The dedication that McFarlane's team has towards the DC Multiverse line, in a way can also serve to be the downfall of the line too. Not to say that DC Multiverse is dying anytime soon, but every once in a while it would be nice to cater these figures towards casual collectors as well. What I mean by that is there's so many figures that McFarlane is putting out on a regular basis. As quickly as you think you're picking up the newest releases, they have already announced or hitting store shelves a brand new lineup. And a lot of the times, most of the times, all the times, they're releasing figures based on specific comic runs. And that's fine. The diehard collectors like myself will still be picking up those figures. People that are reviewing figures are still going to be picking up those figures. But not everybody is going to be instantly recognizing a Dark Detective Batman as a definitive Batman that they want to be picking up. A casual collector may just periodically go to a store and say, you know what, I want to pick up a Batman to put on my shelf. It doesn't have to be a Batman I recognize, but at least it has to be enough of Batman that I know right away the character. I don't think everyone is going to be picking up a character like Dark Detective Batman. As good as it looks, and it does remind me a little bit of that Batman v Superman nightmare scene Batman where he's fighting the parademons. But that's me. That's somebody is also picking these up to review them for you guys. A casual collector may just walk past this figure completely. What I really would suggest that McFarlane's team do, and far be it for me to give any bit of advice, is for every figure that you're releasing that's tied into a specific comic run and has a very unique look to it, every once in a while, please release a classic-looking Batman or a classic-looking Joker. This is something I certainly have said in the past. It is nice that they are releasing and covering the territory of everything. But one of the things I really liked about the Hush Batman, even though I wasn't crazy about having all black forearms, I did like that just looked like a classic-looking Batman. It didn't have to be one that had a trench coat. It didn't have to be one that had a painted-on emblem. It just fit the profile of what a regular Batman would look like. And I'm just saying, as good as it is to release a DC Future State Batman, just once in a while, maybe release a classic-looking Batman that a casual collector will be inclined to pick up. Because I don't think you're going to be appealing to everybody that's collecting figures. You're only going to be collecting, or the only going to be catering towards the diehard fans that are getting anything and everything, or you're catering towards fans that specifically like the DC Future State Batman and want to get a figure for their collection. What do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comment section. Let's digest this a little bit. Do you guys feel that every once in a while McFarlane's team should release a classic-looking figure, or do you like the idea that they continue to put out comic-specific run characters? I always like reading your comments down below. Now, if you are new to this channel, you're enjoying the content that you're seeing, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell notification so you're always going to get those reminders whenever new videos are popping up. And at the very end of this video, if you haven't already seen it, there's a playlist popping up that covers off the territory of all the other DC Multiverse figures I've looked at over the years. Feel free to give that a gander if you have a little bit of time. We are, yes, going to be looking at more DC Multiverse figure reviews, so make sure you're staying tuned to this channel. And as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.